All right. Today's 23-minute waste of camera roll is called MGTOW, Dehumanizing Women. Um, Before we start here, I just want to make it crystal clear that the only point of being a leftist is to enable irresponsible behavior. And I have a feeling that's the war I'm about to go to right now, just by the contorted look of condescension in this young lady's face. I'm probably going to be able to rip her to shreds just by the look in her eyes, like I'm so much smarter than you. I know everything, and I'm about to show you why. When in reality, she's probably going to say everything she's about to say is probably stupid, pointless, and contradictory. But anyway, let's do this.
Hey everyone, today we are going to be making a...
And she looks like she weighs 50 pounds, so probably bulimic.
I'm going to be making a video. You guys aren't making the video, you're just watching the video. Today I'm going to be talking about something that I think might make a few people angry if my incels video is anything to go by. I made the mistake of looking at the MGTOW tag on Tumblr, which is like men going there.
The problem with you women is that you consider it a mistake to figure out what MGTOW is, then you find reasons to complain about it and devalue it and debunk it instead of saying, you know what, maybe there's legitimate reasons why these guys are going to the Philippines.
Way. It's like anti-feminism, but to the extreme, because this is like men who think, they don't need women and blah, blah, blah.
What's extreme about just not participating in a society that hates your guts and wants you dead? We can't win because we're worthless and women don't need us and they would prefer we kill ourselves. And then we say, all right, deuces, Antonio Brown. And then all of a sudden we're dehumanizing women and this is feminism. No, the point of feminism was to destroy Western civilization under the guise of empowering women. MGTOW is just men saying, I can't do this anymore. You win. Congratulations. Good luck in the future because you're fucked. There's no sensical correlation between the two. One is just a response to the other. We're not asking for anything. We're not demanding special treatment. We're not forcing you to do anything. We're just saying, all right, deuces, peace out, see you later. Because the difference between men and women is that men can live their entire lives single, and most of us won't go insane. Women like this probably go single for a year and then become so hateful and bitter that they make videos about how men are the problem when it's probably totally her. But all right, no more blabbing.
And they're like, we're not sexist, but stuff like that. It was a very weird tag to look at because not only was there lots of this like anti-women stuff, there are also a lot of posts by incels, and there are also a lot of posts by feminists and also radical feminists who hate men. So it was kind of like everyone was just angry at everyone.
There's no such thing as a radical feminist. Feminism has always been garbage. It's always been about give me because I'm a woman. That's all. You can have your waves if it makes you feel better about how terrible of a human being you are. But the reality is that feminism has always been a cancer. Everything has only gotten worse since feminism became popularized. Everything. Our sports leagues, our healthcare, our businesses, our entertainment, everything just destroyed by feminism. But we're supposed to play violins because they're on medication and they can't find good men. Fuck you. The only reason why most men are born is to raise families, and these bitter, miserable, useless cunts are the ones that took it away from us. So fuck you. I don't care. Shove your problems up your ass if you can fit them in there.
And it wasn't a very pleasant place to be. But today, mostly for a giggle, we're going to be looking at some of the posts that were tagged like hashtag MGTOW or, MGTOW, however you want to say it. And kind of we're going to be having a look at this, having a little bit of a giggle about it, probably making some people angry. So sorry in advance for that. I do want this to be a light-hearted video, but I don't want to just like make fun of these people. But at the same time, I feel that like
Keep it British.
some of the things they come out with are so ridiculous that like you just kind of have to make a joke out of it, otherwise it's terrifying, you know? I don't know. Anyway, well, let's look at some of these posts. There's not too many, and have a little chat about them, and then we'll just
blah 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 blah.
First up, I found this MGTOW blog that has put a lot of posts. We're going to be looking at a few from it. I thought maybe it was satire at first, but then the more I read, like just the sheer volume of it was like, no, I think this guy's serious.
MGTOW isn't satire, but feminism is definitely a farce.
Yes, which was a little bit upsetting. Modernity has shown us how women act when they get a license to behave any way they want. They cover their bodies in tattoos. They sleep with 1,000 chads. They date criminals and give birth to their children. They abort their babies. They drink alcohol like they are men. They wear skimpy clothing. And they smoke like chimneys. Absolutely vile.
And then you pretend to not be able to understand why men don't want to be with people that are this fucking disgusting. One of the reasons why I don't have kids is because if a woman ever tried to alienate me from my own kids, just to have the balls to think that that's acceptable, she would not be alive for very much longer after she made that decision. And if I ever found out that my pregnant wife aborted our kid, which is why I've never been married, it's not because I'm a 400-pound incel who doesn't know how to talk to women. It's because you're fucking worthless and you're not worth the effort anymore. But let's see what this angelic soul has to say about it.
Well,
Hey, David, how you doing, baby boy? You comfortable? Hi, handsome. All right, you can go back to sleep.
A woman with a license to do whatever I want. I don't actually do any of those things, but even if I did, it wouldn't be a bad thing.
Yes, all of it is a bad thing, and that's the problem. We need to start bringing shame and judgment back, because everything she just read is absolutely a problem. You're just disgusting. Why would a guy want to date a woman that does all that shit?
As long as the person isn't hurting other people, I don't see why.
You're aborting babies. You're hurting other people.
Why it really matters. Like, how does it affect anyone else? How many people a woman sleeps with, or how much alcohol she drinks, unless, you know, it's effective.
Because I don't want a wife who's an alcoholic, and it matters how many people you sleep with, because you develop emotional bonds to every single one of them. And then by the time you get to the husbands that you finally decide you want, they don't really feel like dealing with your bullshit anymore. You really fucked up when even the simps are like, I can't do this anymore. I'll just go to Asia. You have no idea how much destructive, irreparable damage you are doing to yourselves by embracing this bullshit ideology. Because there's going to come a time when men don't care anymore. And then who's going to rebuild society? The men who don't care anymore, or the women who don't have the competence to do it? Oh, I can't wait for them. I hope I live long. Like, I'm 41. I hope I can at least make it to 50, because I'm thinking by then the implosion will be complete, but it could be faster than that, seeing as how much money the Democrats are just printing out like it doesn't mean anything.
My family and friends, and that's a whole other story. Yeah, I find it insane. I just feel like adults should be allowed to do what they...
Sometimes I rush through these videos because I only have, like, my phone only let me record for about a half hour every time. But I'm not gonna rush through this. If my phone cuts off, I'll just do a part 2.
They want,
because this bitch is dumber than rocks, and we're only 3 minutes in.
As long as they take responsibility for their own actions afterwards. If a woman wants to go around,
a woman who takes responsibility for her, are you insane?
Sleeping with 1,000 chads, that's absolutely fine, as long as she practices safe sex.
No, it's not absolutely fine, because nobody's going to want to marry you, and then you're going to be a bitter, miserable, old, alcoholic, pill-dependent cat lady, destroying the next generation of young girls just because feminism blew up in your face, and you want them to suffer too because you care about the children.
And if she does get pregnant, she acts responsibly about it, and she gets regular tests and uses condoms and whatever and doesn't mess with anyone's feelings, I don't see why it's an issue. I just feel like as long as people are being responsible for their own actions and accepting the consequences of them, I don't really see why it matters. We shouldn't police other adults and their behavior. Not when it comes to little.
You can't see why it matters because she wasn't raised properly. There's no such thing as a feminist that was raised properly. That's why they're feminists. That's why they think it makes sense. That's why they'll say women are smarter than men, even though women are the ones who think feminism makes sense.
Things like whether they get tattoos or, whether they smoke or not. The same blog released this miniature essay of a post that says, women are not adults. And again, this is where I think it all comes from. So much.
Non-traditional women aren't adults. They're just children in adult bodies with massive tits. Well, some of them. You're not adults, especially if you're feminists, because it is easier to talk sense to a child, an actual child, than it is to talk sense to a feminist. It's impossible. That's why men are walking away, because you want solutions to all of the problems that you're responsible for causing, but then every time we offer them, you slander us.
This
people are out of your fucking minds.
Stuff is about belittling women and treating them like children and being like, hey, we don't want you to do this because
we treat you the way you act.
But this is justifying all that behavior by saying, well, they're not adults anyway. This is why we treat them like children. Adults take full responsibility for their negative actions. Women rarely do. Their first reaction is to deflect or blame someone else. I don't think that's the case. Yes, there are plenty of people out there who don't take responsibility for their actions, but we should criticize them as individuals, not just assume it's a whole gender thing, because it's not at all. I know as many men as women who do that. Adults are able to manage their lives without external supervision. How many women do you know that can make sound decisions regarding finances? Few of them have the self-discipline to save money. Well, me for one, my sister for another, all of my female friends for 5 more.
Until you piss it all away on Chad and Tyrone.
Friends, but the ones I do, they're irresponsible. Women are terrible at making decisions because they think with their hearts and are full of fear and insecurity.
The only reason why Western civilization became what it is because men built it. And the reason why men built it is because, in spite of the fact that we actually do have feelings, we're capable of pushing them into the back of our brains for the sake of thinking logically. Women can't do that, and that is why America is the new Sodom and Gomorrah.
Well, I disagree with this. Yes, certain studies have shown that men tend to lean a little bit more towards the rational and women tend to lean a little bit more towards the emotional. However, as human beings, we're all controlled by our emotions. It's the first kind of driving force in a lot of our decisions, even in men. And even if there are gender differences, there are still outliers, there are still people who fall.
There's no such thing as a decent man who revels in the suffering of children, like the ones that are starving and the ones that are being abused. But I don't see why it's the taxpayers' problem to solve those problems, because the taxpayers didn't create them, and the creators only created them to abuse the system. So yes, we have emotions. That's why I could never work for a battered women's shelter, because I would just start taking addresses with a knife and Stabby McGee would be at their door within minutes. But I have to put that aside and accept the fact that I can't fix everything, no matter how many stupid ideas I think of to do it.
At different parts of the spectrum, not every woman is only controlled by her heart, and not every man is only controlled by logic. It's a big spectrum. All people are different. You can't make these big sweeping generalizations and use it as a bad thing. And even if women are generally a little bit more emotional than men, again, that's not always a bad thing. Sometimes you need a little bit of heart in decision making. You can't just be cold and calculated.
Yeah, but you can't base decision making on feelings, because that's why women were given the right to vote, and that's why everything has gone to shit ever since.
The whole time, because that's not how human beings work. Sometimes the best decisions come from a place of empathy and caring and wanting to do the best for other people, Women's natural role is one of subordination. She is a follower, a dependent. She has no business being in any position of authority over men. The mere idea is offensive. No.
It is. It's insulting because men are the ones that built the world you live in. But I'm supposed to do what you tell me? I'm supposed to submit to you? Are you out of your fucking minds? You know how many men fell to their deaths building the skyscrapers that you live in and work in? Were those guys supposed to submit to their wives? The older I get, the more I realize that I'm just a sane person living in a fucking batshit crazy world. It just doesn't make any sense. That's why I've disassociated from society outside of social media. Well, that and the fact that I have a step count limit on my right leg.
Oh, that statement is offensive. Western society operates on this absurd notion that women are equal to men because they are.
No, you're not. You're not. That's why you won't work in sewers, because you're not equal to men. That's why you don't want to pay on the first date, because you're not equal to men. You just like the fantasy of the idea.
And this is why we have lost our way. If you view women as your equal, you will inevitably become frustrated with their inability to live up to that designation. Let's view and treat women based on what they are, not what gender idealism tells us they should be.
Wouldn't that be refreshing?
If we get to rebuild this civilization, it is paramount that they are...
I want absolutely nothing to do with rebuilding this civilization. I could theoretically get off of disability and start an online business and make a shit ton more money. But why would I do that in a society where 95% of my revenue is either going to employees or feminist forced laws like hiring people just because they're a certain race or a certain gender, and paid maternity leave and sexual harassment claims. And then you wonder why all of our manufacturing jobs go to different countries. Why would somebody pay shitloads of money they don't need to waste when they could go to a different country and have their products made for 3 cents a product? Yeah. All you feminists ever do is like shoot yourselves in your feet and then find someone else to blame for it.
Not allowed to vote ever again, because that worked out so well in the past, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, you know, how many millions of American military service members are rotting in the ground or missing in action because women decided to vote for wars based on their feelings instead of on logic? But no, you go ahead and continue to explain to me why letting women vote is a fantastic idea.
Another post by the same person. Why would any man want to settle down with a woman who wasn't a virgin?
I wouldn't marry a woman who isn't a virgin, because if you're not a virgin when you meet me, then you're telling me that you're settling for me. And I don't care how disabled I am or how much money I do or don't have in a bank. It's not going to happen. I'm not going to lower myself to marrying someone who didn't even have enough respect for their own body to not fuck men before she got married. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you.
If she had just one boyfriend, she still had sex with him dozens of times. It's still secondhand.
And she'll compare you to that guy for the rest of your fucking lives, even if you get divorced. Well, maybe if you were like Chad, then we wouldn't have gotten divorced and I wouldn't have destroyed your life in court and ruined your children for my own selfish desires.
Modernity is disgusting and I want no part of it. Oh, don't worry, because even us second-hand women wouldn't want to touch you. Not with an attitude like that. This whole idea of like second-hand women, it's disgusting. It's not nice, is it? It is treating us as objects.
It's not nice, but it's the situation she put herself in. Unless she was the R word, she chose to do that, which means she doesn't have any respect for herself or the potential man that she could marry. So right off the bat, your marriage is doomed to fail.
What a person has done with their bodies in the past should have no impact on who they are now in their current relationship.
You know what? A volcano explosion should have no impact on the city that's located directly next to it. But unfortunately, we live in reality. So that volcano explosion is going to destroy everything within a mile or two wide radius at minimum. We shouldn't have dropped atomic bombs on Japan, but you know what? We didn't want to keep getting American soldiers killed for no reason. Reality and what you want sometimes aren't the same thing, and that's why you should be a virgin until you get married.
Relationships, as long as they were safe, as long as they're currently healthy, it really doesn't make a difference. If you're worried about a woman's sexual past, I think that says more about your insecurities than it does
That's because she's a whore and she doesn't want to admit it. So let's just blame male fragility.
anything about her. Seriously, if a woman's with you now, she's with you now. That's her decision. It doesn't matter what's happened in the past.
And all the other men that she dated.
Same, the other way around as well and whatever. I don't see why this has to be a gender thing. Interestingly though, one of the things I found on this hashtag was like that the MGTOW guys really don't like being called incels. They make it kind of like very nerve.
Most MGTOW guys aren't incels. They're just guys who don't care anymore. If you weren't so self-important and self-absorbed, you feminists would realize that it's not about the sex. I can make a phone call and get sex right now. The problem is that for the first time in human history, you're worthless. And instead of investing all of your time and energy into figuring how to not be worthless, you go out of your way to be more worthless. And it doesn't make any fucking sense because it's not supposed to. Hey, baby boy, there's fresh hay in your cage.
That they could have women if they want to, but they choose not to. Very defensive, and they really don't.
Why would a man want to be with a 24-hour migraine?
Like incels. I think again, it's kind of like
imagine dating her and being in her presence 24 hours a day, 7 days a week until you either die or get divorced. I'd blow my goddamn brains out. You're not worth what you think you are, ladies. Unless you're traditional, there's nothing special about whores. There's millions of them all over the United States. You want to be treated like a princess, carry yourself like one.
Insecurity power thing, but that's just the impression I get. This guy says, incels are men who can't go their own way. Incels are the opposite of MGTOWs. MGTOWs who are only claiming the title because they can't get laid or adopting a healthier mindset. Incels are obsessed with female validation, which is why they can't go their own way. They need women to like them. It's truly pathetic. Some of them even celebrate violence against women. I'll never support that. I rebuke them completely. Okay, so you don't support violence against women. That's good. You just like to belittle them emotionally instead? Okay. So you've never hit a woman. You just want to take away all her rights. I get that. Yeah. Apparently incels are obsessed with female validation, but MGTOWs are clearly only obsessed with females. For people who claim they...
MGTOWs just want to go back to the most prosperous time in American history. That's it. We don't want to take your rights away. We don't want to put people in chains again. We don't want to have separate drinking fountains. We just want to live the lives that we should have been able to live that we can't because you destroyed it before we were born.
Going their own way. They spend a hell of a lot of time talking about this other gender that they want nothing to do with and belittling them and putting them down. It does remind me of, when you get toddlers who like pull a girl's hair because they like her. Like that, isn't it? This bit was really weird.
She made a 20-minute video on a subject she barely knows anything about just so that people can hear her complain. But, men.
Me. Society is a female construct, which we...
I would venture, that was a good one, to say that 95 or maybe 90% of every man on the born or soon to be born could easily live in the woods and live off of nature and eventually perfect how to do that and easily live off the grid for the rest of our lives. Women can't. So to say that America is a patriarchy is fucking stupid because this entire society was built so that men could get pussy. We're not getting it anymore. Society is imploding, and I don't think that's a coincidence. America is a matriarchy. That's all Western civilization has ever been. It's been women telling men what to do for 4 or 5 thousand years, and men finally getting fed up with it because there's no point to tolerating it anymore.
We all know is like ridiculous. If you look back at history, if you studied sociology even a little bit, you know that
if you studied any history at all, you wouldn't have made this video.
Not all, but most major societies were patriarchal. They were essentially built by men, and it's a good thing.
You want to live in a patriarchy? Go to Iran. Then come back here and tell me how bad a life in America is.
That we're moving away from that, because it often wasn't always the best thing. Society has always been a female creation. Well, that's just not true. Women determine what is socially acceptable, correct, and favorable. Again, I don't think that's true. Otherwise, like this idea of like...
Well, if that weren't true, then pedophiles wouldn't dress like women and groom children in grade schools. And women wouldn't be participating in men's sports, but they are because society is dictated by what women want. And when we tried to warn you, you slandered us. So fuck you if you have a problem with men swimming with women, because it's your fault.
Female virgins wouldn't be so prized because women know that, like, it's not really a big deal, is it? It's men who treasure that. It's men who put importance on that. When women favored traditionalism, men who had traditional views were viewed in a positive light. Now that women think... Okay, so...
You know what the craziest thing about feminism is? The lives that modern day women struggle for but can never get are the lives they could have had if they didn't destroy traditionalism with feminism.
He's claiming that, like, I don't know, even go back as far as, like, say the 50s maybe, women were more traditional then and wanted this nuclear family, and they wanted to stay at home and cook and clean, and that's why men who agreed with that were seen as great. It was definitely the women in...
Can you hear the condescension in her voice because women actually wanted to raise their kids properly? You people are fucking disgusting. You're worthless. Feminists are worthless. They offer nothing to society except complaints and destruction. Oh, they wanted to raise their children properly so they didn't grow up to be felons or dead by 14. The nerve.
Control of that. Not the fact that, you know, society was pretty patriarchal and men had all the power and were building up with the men. Meanwhile, they told them...
You know what the number one reason for why men are getting passports and deucing out of this shithole? It's because the days of the Sandlot are over, and feminists couldn't possibly be more happy about it. And if you don't know what the movie The Sandlot is, watch it, because it is a classic if you're a man. I don't know if women would like it because, you know, patriarchy. Back when everything made sense and there were two genders and we knew which gender we were.
And that they have to stay down in their little housewife roles and...
Little housewife roles.
Is what I'm trying to say.
Women were happy because they had houses they didn't have to pay for that they could decorate like mansions. That's why they love, that's one of the reasons why they love being at home. So when you suggest that staying at home is slave labor, all you're doing is admitting that you don't care about your kids. But, you know, men are the problem. Oh, look at that cut.
I think. Now that women favour governmental provision, men who hold traditional views are viewed as misogynists, only the misogynistic ones. Society views a good man as being wealthy, sociable, ambitious, and handsome because these are the traits women approve of. Society does not view men playing video games in a positive light because women can't directly benefit from it.
Women can't stand anything that takes attention away from them. That's why they destroy your video game machines and your televisions and basically everything you own of value, because if it takes away attention from them, God fucking, hell hath no fury. But toxic masculinity is the problem. But hell hath no fury.
Competitive video game playing was as popular and lucrative in the West as it is in places like South Korea. Perception would change in accordance. Well, that's just pathetic. I think the problem that some women have with men playing video games is that, like, if they're in a relationship with them, they feel like they aren't spending enough quality time together because men are busy playing the games. Whereas, like, when it comes to me and Dan, like,
because we only want to spend 22 hours a day with you instead of 24. The audacity. The audacity.
These computer games, but often we tend to play them together, which is why I don't really have an issue with it. It's something like, it's an activity that we do as a couple. Nothing to do with if women can monetarily gain from it. Another post says, women think MGTOW hate them. It's not hate.
The irony of demanding to work for a living so you could spend less time with your family, only to complain that your boyfriend or husband is spending too much time playing video games. Rational brains.
I feel it's contempt. Contempt is a very different emotion. Yeah, and it's so.
I have nothing but scorn and contempt for non-traditional women and feminists, which I guess are basically the same thing. But show me a traditional woman that wants to get married and it's been a slice. There's a difference. We don't hate women, and our contempt is justifiable.
Much better, isn't it? We look down on you, you disgust us, we don't respect you enough to even hate you. Hate should be reserved for people on your level, your peers, not for malfunctioning helpmates. Someone asked them a real question, why? Like, what drives someone to think like this? Their reply, experience.
70 years of never-ending complaints from feminists, to the point where you have to manufacture the complaints now just so you can continue complaining, which basically explains manspreading and mansplaining. They just have to keep manufacturing reasons to complain so they don't have to stop.
This is with women. This is what I mean. It's so dehumanizing and it's bizarre to me. I don't get how you can see, like, literally.
That's because you're 20 years old and you don't know shit about anything.
Literally half the population as, like, not even being human. Like, you disgust me, you're not on the same level as me. That is misogyny. You can't say that it's not. If a woman said the same thing about men, it would be sexist and
misogyny is impossible because gender is just a social construct.
Disgusting as well. You can't just look at someone and say, because you have different genitals to me, you're less than me. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I don't get the people who, and this is just a very personal thing, I don't get the people who put up such strong boundaries between people who just look different to them. The people who think, well, you can't do X because you have these genitals. Or the people.
I will also put this 20-minute taste of heaven in the description box in this video.
Who think you must be X because you have this skin color, or you must be this because you have this family history. I don't get it. I think, going off topic here, it's the same as the people who, like, complain about, like, cultural appropriation stuff.
This is what happens when schools don't teach people to think critically anymore.
And again, this is probably going to make people mad, but I don't get it. Why can't people just enjoy human things? Why do you need to have 5 generations of ancestors born in such and such a place in order to say, I want to do this hairstyle, or I want to wear this dress? I don't get it. I don't get it.
The left. Wow, that was a good one. I can't remember the point of this was. All right, let me see.
These, like, walls that people build up. I feel like as long as you're being respectful, you know, if you want to have a certain hairstyle.
Oh, the biggest problem with the left is that they always eat each other. That's why she doesn't understand why people are complaining about cultural appropriation when her enthusiasm for feminism eventually pushed that into popular culture. All you do is make everything worse and you don't even realize it.
Or something, yeah. Maybe you understand the history behind it. Maybe you understand why people started wearing that hairstyle or that dress or these clothes or celebrating this holiday or whatever. It's good to understand the background, but as long as you're being respectful, I don't see any problem with people just celebrating all sorts of cultures and all sorts of different people and everyone kind of, like, coming together in this big amazing melting pot and, like, taking the best bits from all over the place and creating something amazing. I don't get why people.
We can't have that because feminism won't allow it because cultural appropriation.
People wouldn't want that. I don't get why they put up these artificial walls. It's really bizarre to me. Anyway, this person also posted another point saying, "Why would any man want to settle down with a woman who wasn't a virgin?" We actually saw this earlier, didn't we? Yeah. So someone responded with the great little response because, like men, women are also human beings. As human beings with relatively short lifespan and the capacity to make mistakes, we end up settling down with people we later regret having into our lives, even completely ignoring your gross second-hand crack. A question like that shows you're lacking even the basic level of understanding. And people do like to be understood. People like to be forgiven for the dumb stuff they've done. If you're not willing to extend that courtesy to people, ain't no one going to be willing to extend it to you ever. Brilliant.
Anything to dismiss taking any kind of accountability at all.
Fantastic response. I love it. But apparently, this is not about people making mistakes. It's about a sexually depraved society where STDs, single mothers, and abortions are rampant.
That's because they are, and I can no longer stand the sound of her voice. But thanks for watching.